Welcome to the Master Chemist video for MS Math Skills 0.1, which is to recognise and use expressions in decimal, ordinary and standard form. So standard form is used a lot in math and science because it's a convenient way of writing very large or very small numbers. So when we see a very large or very small number, if it's written in ordinary form as a normal number, then it can be quite difficult for our brains to process it. So we find it easier if we use standard form. So we'll look at large numbers first, and we can break down large numbers into two numbers. So the numbers I'm using here aren't particularly large, but it's useful to look at smaller numbers to start with. So 500, we can write 500 as being 5 times 100. And as you should know, 100 you can also write as 10 squared, or 10 to the power of 2. So 500 is the same as 5 times 10 to the 2. So if you were to write 500 in standard form, it would be 5 times 10 to the 2. Now in practice, we never do this for 500 because it's much easier to write 500 as 500. But as the numbers get bigger, it becomes more useful. So for 5,000, you can write 5,000 as 5 times 1,000, which is the same as 5 times 10 to the 3. But again, we're quite used to numbers in the thousands, so we'd quite happily write 5,000. And it's probably more fast to write it as 5 times 10 to the 3. So 50,000, you can write as 5 times 10,000, which would be 5 times 10 to the 4. And again, we probably wouldn't for this, but as the numbers get bigger and bigger, it becomes more useful. So it's important to know the standard form number does not have to be a whole number. So for example, 550 would be 5.5 times 100, or 5.5 times 10 to the 2. 5,550 would be 5.55 times 1,000, which would be 5.55 times 10 to the 3. And 54,800 would be 5.48 times 10,000, which would be 5.48 times 10 to the 4. Now, when we're considering small numbers, you need to be able to understand negative powers of 10. So 0.1 we can also write as 10 to the minus 1, which is the same as saying it's 1 divided by 10. 0.01 you can write as 10 to the power of minus 2, which would be 1 divided by 100, or 1 divided by 10 squared. And 0.001 is going to be 10 to the minus 3. So if we use the same method as we did for the larger numbers, we could write 0.7 as 7 times 10 to the minus 1. But as with 500, we probably wouldn't write that, we probably would write 0.7. And 0.07, we'd probably write that in ordinary form, but if we were going to do it in standard form, that would be 7 times 10 to the minus 2, and then 0.007 would be 7 times 10 to the minus 3. We tend to start using them around the 10 to the minus 3. So standard form is a number between 1 and 10. It can't be 10 itself. It could be like 9.9. So a number between 1 and 10 times by a power of 10. And that power of 10 can either be positive for a large number or negative for a small number. Now it's important to note that when you change numbers from ordinary to standard form, or indeed the other way around, you always must keep the number of significant figures the same. Now if you're watching the Office Mixed version of this video, then go on to the next slide and complete the quiz. If you're not, then make sure that you can do everything that we've covered in this video, and if not, rewatch the video or look in the textbook.